In a small town called Maplewood, two young people named Dylan and Daisy found each other in the most unexpected way. Dylan was a kind-hearted guy, always ready with a smile. He worked as a librarian and loved sharing stories with the children at his library. His calm nature made people feel safe and understood. He enjoyed quiet evenings, often lost in a book, but sometimes he felt shy about expressing his feelings. Daisy, on the other hand, was vibrant and full of life. She was a graphic designer who loved to paint and create. Her creative spirit made her passionate about everything she did. She had a joyful laugh that could light up a room, and her friends often said that her energy was contagious. However, sometimes her impulsive nature made it hard for her to think before acting, which caused her to clash with others. They met one sunny afternoon at a local art fair, where Daisy was displaying her paintings. Dylan was drawn to one vivid artwork that reminded him of the stories he loved. He approached her, nervously complimenting the painting. His honesty charmed Daisy, and they talked for hours about art and books. They found comfort in each other, forming a strong emotional bond, and each conversation brought them closer together. As their relationship grew, they shared many sweet moments, long walks by the lake, late-night talks under the stars, and even struggling to create their own art together. Dylan admired Daisy's free spirit, while she appreciated his deep thinking. They both knew they had something special, yet they also sensed challenges ahead. Dylan's reluctance to open up fully sometimes left Daisy feeling uncertain. Meanwhile, Daisy's spontaneous decisions sometimes clashed with Dylan's need for stability. They felt this tension, but their love was strong, and they hoped that together, they could learn to overcome these differences. As the days turned into weeks, Dylan and Daisy began to notice hints of unease in their relationship. One evening, as they sat on the porch sipping iced tea, Dylan received a text from a friend inviting him to a weekend camping trip. Excited, he shared the news with Daisy. However, instead of responding with joy, he noticed a brief shadow cross her face. "Why don't you go?" she said, trying to mask her disappointment but failing in her eyes. Dylan felt a twist in his stomach. "I thought you'd love the idea. It's a chance for me to relax with friends." Daisy forced a smile, but inside, she felt a sting of insecurity. She had been looking forward to spending the weekend with Dylan, just the two of them, trying new art projects and enjoying their usual comfort. Instead, she felt pushed aside. "It sounds fun, but maybe we could make different plans instead?" Dylan was confused. To him, camping was a way to unwind. But he sensed something deeper in her voice. He tried to reach for her hand, but she pulled back slightly, the connection between them feeling a little strained. "Is it really about the trip, or is there something else?" Daisy's heart raced. She did not want to dive deep into her feelings in that moment. She felt misunderstood. Sometimes, Dylan seemed so focused on his thoughts that she worried he didn't see her needs. "I just thought we would spend time together this weekend." "That's all," she replied, her voice quieter now. Dylan felt the weight of her words. He cared deeply for her, and he tried to understand why she felt that way. "I want us to have time together too, but I need some time with my friends. Can't we do both? You could join us." At this suggestion, Daisy frowned. She hated the idea of feeling like an outsider in his friend group. "I don't know, Dylan. You look so happy when you're with them. I want you to enjoy yourself, but what about us?" A thick silence hung between them. Dylan felt a wave of self-doubt wash over him. "What's wrong with us, then?" he thought. He stared into his drink, searching for the right words but unable to find them. Frustration bubbled inside Daisy. She wondered if their emotional distance was growing wider. She wished Dylan would understand her without needing to explain everything. Even in this moment of discomfort, she felt alone, little by little losing the connection they had built. "Maybe I just need some time," Daisy said softly, her eyes dropping to her feet. Dylan didn't understand. He only saw the distance rising between them and feared that things might break. He wanted to call her back, to bridge the gap forming between them, but felt too shy to ask for more talk. Instead, he leaned back in his chair, feeling lost. As the hours passed that evening, what began as a simple conversation had turned into an emotional divide, one neither had expected to encounter so soon. Misunderstandings simmered beneath their interactions, creating a struggle neither of them knew how to address. With tensions rising, both started questioning their ability to navigate these first hurdles in their relationship, unsure if they could turn back toward one another. As the days passed, Daisy felt her emotions becoming a tangled web of confusion and fear. The previous conversation with Dylan lingered in her mind, feeding her worries about their connection. She often found herself feeling distant, watching him interact with his friends on social media. Each photo he posted seemed to highlight the joy he found in their group, while she felt left out. One evening, Daisy decided to invite a few friends over for dinner to distract herself. While chopping vegetables, she couldn't help but think about Dylan's camping trip. The thought nagged at her heart. She felt a sudden surge of jealousy when she envisioned him laughing and having fun without her. Did he really miss her? Or was he happy without her? When Dylan arrived home, he was surprised to find the kitchen filled with laughter. He felt a flash of warmth seeing Daisy's friends, but something inside him shifted at the thought of her enjoying time without him. "What's going on?" he asked, a slight frown marring his forehead. Daisy looked up, her heart racing. "Just a little get-together," she replied, a forced smile plastered on her face. She didn't want him to worry, but deep down, she wished he would ask to join. As the night wore on, the lively atmosphere began to feel heavy. Dylan felt a creeping sense of disconnection as he joined in on conversation but sensed that he had missed a crucial moment with Daisy. As she laughed with her friends, he stood off to the side, feeling like an intruder. After everyone went home, Dylan and Daisy sat on the couch in silence. The air between them hummed with unspoken words. Finally, Dylan broke the stillness, his voice low. "You seemed happy tonight. I thought you liked hanging out with your friends." Daisy's mood soured. "I think you are more happy with them than you are with me. You spend so much time with your friends that sometimes it feels like I'm in the way." The words spilled out, a mix of frustration and hurt. Dylan blinked, surprised by her reaction. "That's not true. I care about you, Daisy. I want to share time with you too," he said, his brow furrowing. Daisy dashed her eyes away, feeling guilt mixing with resentment. "But are you happy with me? Sometimes, I feel like I am just a part of your schedule." Feeling a burst of defensiveness, Dylan struggled to remain calm. "I'm doing my best to balance everything. I'm trying to be an open boyfriend, but sometimes I just need my own space." Their voices rose, and the emotional tension unfolded like a storm cloud. Daisy's feelings turned into doubt. Each word they exchanged seemed to build an invisible barrier. They floated on a diving board of uncertainty. Finally, as their argument reached a climax, both became exhausted. Dylan sighed deeply, looking at Daisy for a long moment. "I find myself always doubting how to show I care. I'm sorry if I didn't make you feel important tonight." In that moment, something shifted. Daisy saw the pain in Dylan's eyes. She felt her heart pulse with a new understanding. Perhaps they were both navigating a journey of emotional needs, struggling to connect in a world full of distractions. "Maybe we can find a way to talk more," she offered hesitantly, still feeling fragile. A spark of hope flickered between them, making the weight of their emotions feel lighter. They still had a long way to go, but somewhere in the midst of conflict, they were realizing that communication could be their small win. One rainy Saturday afternoon, the tension that had been building between Dylan and Daisy finally erupted. They were sitting in their small living room, silence hanging thick in the air as the rain pattered against the windows. Both felt uneasy, words were tingling on the tip of their tongues, but neither knew how to begin. Finally, Dylan, unable to hold back any longer, asked, "Can we just talk? I feel like there's so much between us right now." Daisy, feeling the pressure, sighed deeply. "Okay. But I want you to understand how I feel too." Dylan nodded but looked frustrated. "I wish you would stop assuming things. It seems like you think I'm always abandoning you when I go out." The words cut deeper than he realized. Daisy felt her cheeks flush hot. "It's just you are always so busy with your friends. Do you even notice how lonely I feel sometimes?" she snapped, an edge creeping into her voice. Dylan's expression turned hard. "I can't help it if I have a life outside of us. You need to stop putting every little thing on me." Though his words weren't meant to hurt, they did. Daisy's heart dropped, and anger swirled inside her. Are you saying I'm not enough? You act like I'm a burden for wanting to spend time together. You know that's not what I meant. Dylan said, raising his voice. You always jump to the worst conclusions. I'm just trying to find a balance. I care about our relationship. I care too, but nobody's here for me except you. What if I need you more than you realize? Daisy felt tears prick at her eyes. Dylan, feeling overwhelmed, crossed his arms, pulling himself inward. So, you want me to choose you over everything else? It shouldn't be that way. You should find your own hobbies too. His words hit hard. You think I haven't tried? I'm explaining how I feel, and you're making it sound like I'm the one failing, she retorted, the sadness spilling over into her voice. The argument turned raw, sparks flying between them. It felt like a troubling storm, neither had the strength to measure fully. Dylan didn't understand how deep Daisy's loneliness ran, while she failed to see how much he needed personal space. I don't think you care enough. Daisy yelled, her voice trembling. The anger coursed through her as she crossed the line. Maybe we shouldn't be together at all. The moment those words left her lips, a chill swept over the room. Dylan felt a sudden blow to his chest. You don't mean that. Please tell me you don't actually mean that, he said, his voice breaking as emotions clouded his face. I don't know. Daisy cried, frustration pouring out with every breath. What's the point of us if you can't even see I'm suffering? As the silence filled the room once more, it felt suffocating. The rain poured harder against the window, mirroring the turmoil within them. They stood opposite each other, hearts racing and emotions raw, realizing the words exchanged could not be taken back. As the warmth of their love wavered in the storm, they both felt an unquiet fear creeping into their relationship, aware that this argument could change everything for them. After the intense argument, both Dylan and Daisy found themselves in separate places, physically and emotionally. Dylan paced back and forth in his small bedroom, the silence around him almost deafening. He replayed every word of their argument in his mind, each harsh exchange echoing like a drumbeat. His head throbbed as he struggled to understand. Was he really ignoring Daisy's needs? He didn't want to hurt her, yet he felt this growing pressure to balance his life. Frustrated, he grabbed his journal from his desk and started to write. The pen scratched against the paper as he poured out his feelings. I care about her, but I also need my own space, he wrote. Is it so wrong to want time alone? Each line that followed explored his fear, doubts, and the status of their love. He realized how easy it became to focus on his friends rather than see Daisy's loneliness. What if I lose her? He paused, writing that thought down made his heart race. The idea sent a chill down his spine. He didn't want to believe things could come to that. Dylan put his head in his hands and felt the weight in his chest. Maybe it was time to face the truth. Both of them needed to find a way to communicate. Meanwhile, in her room, Daisy sat curled up in a corner with a steaming cup of tea. They had always talked about everything, so why was it so hard to say what they needed now? Tears trickled down her cheeks as she recalled Dylan's vulnerability, the way he struggled to balance his friendships with their relationship. She opened her laptop and pulled up a blank document, ready to start typing her thoughts. I never meant to say those words, she wrote, her fingers hesitantly dancing across the keyboard. What if I lose him because I can't control my feelings? More tears fell as she reflected on their love, realizing how easily anger could cloud her heart. She understood now that she had also put too much pressure on him. When she remembered Dylan's hurt expression, a stab of regret pierced through her. A thought floated in, uninvited yet illuminating. He cares for me, but we are both afraid. Daisy paused, taking a breath. For the first time, she considered that her fears of losing him were also mirrored in his actions. Perhaps they both felt unsure, creating a distance they never intended to create. Later that evening, while praying for clarity, Dylan picked up his phone and texted his best friend Mark. Can we talk? I had a fight with Daisy, and I feel terrible. Sadness crept into his voice as he waited for a response. When Mark arrived, Dylan explained the events of the day, imagining that Mark would understand. I didn't mean for it to go that far. I'm afraid I might lose her if I can't figure this out, Dylan admitted, voice heavy with worry. Mark nodded, recognizing the signs of young love. Relationships take work. You need to talk things out, or the feelings will just fester, he said. Daisy probably feels just as confused and scared. Open communication is the path to clarity. As Dylan listened, new ideas began to awaken inside him. He couldn't keep nurturing his doubts. He had to face the situation with honesty. On the other hand, Daisy found courage at the bottom of her teacup. With every drop, she sensed the need for growth within herself too. Realization swept over her. They both needed to fight for the relationship, guiding each other toward understanding. The thoughts reformed into determination, sparking an understanding that love flourished with honest effort. The night lingered on, and both partners remained deep in thought. Despite their distance, something powerful emerged from the silence, moments of insight intertwined with dreams of rebuilding a stronger bond, where love would no longer be overshadowed by misunderstandings. The following morning, the soft light of dawn peeked through the curtains, illuminating the small room where Dylan slept. The events of the previous day replayed in his mind, each moment of hurt still fresh. The taste of regret lingered, and he knew he needed to reach out to Daisy. She was important to him. He could not let a misunderstanding destroy what they had built together. After breakfast, Dylan took a deep breath and decided to text Daisy. "Can we talk? I want to know how you really feel," the message read. His heart raced as he hit send, unsure if she was ready or willing to discuss everything. But deep inside, he felt hopeful. They had to communicate, it just felt right. Meanwhile, Daisy was in her kitchen when she heard her phone buzz. Seeing Dylan's name brought back a flood of feelings, sadness, longing, and regret. Slowly, she picked it up and read his message, warmth blossoming in her chest. She felt like she had been waiting for this moment. Gathering her thoughts, she typed back quickly. "Yes, please. I want to talk too." Dylan soon arrived at her apartment with an anxious smile, still unsure how to begin. But the moment their eyes met, the atmosphere softened. They both felt the weight of last night's turmoil lingering but were also ready to move forward. "I'm sorry for what I said," Dylan began, his eyes earnest. "I never should have suggested that you were a burden. I realize now how much I hurt you, and that was not my intention." His voice trembled slightly, conveying the depth of his remorse. Daisy blinked back rising tears. "I'm sorry too. I should have expressed how lonely I felt instead of getting angry. I think both of us have been carrying so much." Holding his gaze, she continued, "I love you, but I know I need to communicate better." A calming wave began to wash over them. With each apology, the distance from the previous night seemed to shrink. Dylan nodded, a slight smile emerging as he felt a spark of hope. "We can work on this. I want us to share what we truly feel without fear." "Let's make a plan," Daisy suggested, her heart bouncing with energy. "We could read some relationship books together or even talk to someone about how to communicate better. I think learning new ways might help us." Dylan agreed readily. "That's a great idea. We both have things we can learn. Having an external guide might help us understand each other's needs better. Besides, I want us to grow together, not apart." With this shared decision, they began to carve a new path, one framed by understanding and collaboration. They spent the morning searching for books on relationships, diving into topics like effective communication and emotional needs. With every word they read, a new sense of connection sprouted, rich with possibilities. As the days turned into weeks, they made small changes together. On some evenings, they would open their books next to each other, chatting about the lessons and questions the chapters evoked. During these shared moments of dialogue, laughter echoed through their home. They began practicing how to ask for what they needed. Dylan showed Daisy how to voice his feelings, while Daisy taught Dylan the importance of listening deeply. While the journey was not always easy, something shifted between them. Together, they felt renewed, their love deeper than before. With every conversation, they dismantled old patterns and formed a sturdier bond. The love that had once been overshadowed by misunderstandings now stood resilient in the face of their challenges. The turning point was not just in their words, but also in their actions. The commitment to fight for their relationship became their foundation. With apologies in the past and hopes for the future, Dylan and Daisy finally felt their relationship strengthen, united in their willingness to embrace change together. As the weeks rolled on, Dylan and Daisy began to weave new habits into their everyday lives. They practiced communicating openly, sharing moments of vulnerability that felt refreshing but also a little frightening. They knew it would take time to adjust, but each small step felt like a move toward a more loving and understanding relationship. One sunny Saturday morning, Dylan suggested taking a walk at Maplewood Park. It was a favorite spot of theirs, and he wanted to create a relaxed space for talking. As they strolled hand in hand, the air tinged with warmth and promise, Dylan felt the knot of anxiety ease in his chest. "I love taking long walks with you," he said, glancing at Daisy, who smiled back. "I do too," she replied, grateful for this simple moment. Yet, even as they talked about harmless topics, the weather and upcoming plans, Daisy still found herself holding back at times. Determined to truly express herself, she took a breath and said, "You know, sometimes I struggle with sharing my feelings. It feels easier to stay quiet." Dylan nodded, appreciating her honesty. "I completely understand. It can be hard to open up. But I want you to know it's safe for you to share anything with me." Daisy listened closely, sensing the sincerity in his words. "Sometimes I worry that I will sound silly or needy. But I realize now that we can both be vulnerable with each other." Still, uncertainty lingered within her, a remnant from their past misunderstandings. Dylan recognized that vulnerability would take practice for both of them. A few days later, they decided to write letters to each other expressing their thoughts and feelings. This was a new way to communicate that felt more comfortable than speaking directly. They scribbled passionately, putting their hearts on paper. When they exchanged these letters, Dylan felt a flutter of excitement but also a tinge of fear. What if Daisy had hidden doubts? Was he doing enough? As he opened her letter and read her encouraging words about their growth, warmth spread through him. But he still took his time writing his own, unsure whether he was able to articulate everything he needed to say. The next day, they met for a coffee date, and Dylan handed his letter to Daisy, feeling the nerves bubble in his stomach. As she read, her expression shifted from surprise to joy, and she reached for his hand on the table. "This is beautiful, Dylan," she said, her voice filled with gratitude. "Thank you for being so honest." Through these letters, they opened doors to their inner worlds, yet they experienced awkward moments too. During one discussion, they felt the tension resurfacing when they disagreed about an upcoming trip they had been planning. Dylan wanted to go camping again while Daisy suggested a beach getaway. "I feel like we just went camping," Daisy said, a flicker of annoyance showing. "Maybe we should explore a different kind of trip this time." Dylan felt his heart speed up. "But I love that place. Why do you always want to change things?" His tone was sharper than he intended, and he noticed Daisy stiffen at his words. Realizing she didn't mean to push him away, he took a deep breath and softened his expression. "I'm sorry. I'm just so used to my way of doing things. Let's meet in the middle." Together, they worked through their differences, but it wasn't always seamless. Sometimes, one of them would slip back into old habits, building walls without meaning to. Yet, with each obstacle, they were determined to address the feelings as they arose, using the tools they had started to learn. During these moments of tension, Daisy would remind herself that Dylan genuinely cared. She could feel how willing he was to fight for their relationship. And Dylan, too, recognized how much he valued Daisy's happiness. Through the messiness of their journey, a thread of hope stitched them closer together. Each change, whether awkward or smooth, painted a new picture of their love, a collaborative masterpiece that reflected both their hearts. One evening, as the sun dipped low in the sky, casting a golden hue over the living room, Dylan and Daisy found themselves curled up on the couch, a blanket draped over their legs. They had chosen to watch an old movie, something light-hearted that made them both smile. Yet, as they sat together, a warm sense of comfort enveloped them, reminding them of the love that had always been there, though sometimes hidden beneath layers of misunderstandings. During a particularly silly scene from the movie, Dylan couldn't help but laugh, and Daisy joined in, her laughter filling the space between them. It was a delightful moment, free from worry, and as they exchanged playful glances, something within Daisy began to soften. She felt an urge to reach out, to ask the questions that had lingered in her mind. Can I ask you something? Daisy turned to Dylan, her eyes twinkling with curiosity. Of course, Dylan replied, his smile remaining. Do you think we are truly better at talking to each other now? Her voice was sincere, gently probing as she searched his face for understanding. Dylan nodded, his expression thoughtful. I believe we are. Remember how we used to argue without knowing why we were upset? Now, it feels like we're learning to express those feelings instead of hiding them. He paused for a moment. I feel safer with you now. Daisy's heart pounded at his words, a soothing warmth spreading through her. I feel that way too. I realize that when I let my guard down, it creates room for us to connect deeply. They settled into a comfortable silence, allowing their emotions to linger in the air. Surrounding them, the soft glow of the lamp created a sense of intimacy, making the world outside feel distant. After a minute, Dylan glanced at Daisy. I'm really proud of us. We've come so far. I never thought we would find our way back like this, Daisy admitted. It's like we are understanding each other on a new level. Dylan turned serious, wanting her to know how much this journey meant to him. You're not just my girlfriend, you're my partner. It matters that we feel safe enough to share everything. This sincerity hung in the air as Daisy looked deep into Dylan's eyes, where she could see his vulnerability shining back at her. She took a breath, feeling their connection strengthen. I used to think that opening up made me weak, but now I understand that it's the complete opposite. It makes us stronger, she said. Dylan smiled, feeling encouraged by her words. You have no idea how much that means to me. I've always admired you for being so passionate, and I want to support that part of you, not hold you back. They continued to share their feelings, deep conversations flowing naturally as the movie played in the background, becoming nothing more than a faint hum. They talked about their dreams, their fears, and what they wanted for the future. With every exchange, they uncovered pieces of themselves that they had perhaps kept hidden before. Then, they realized this was different. Each laugh, each word felt like a gentle stitch, sewing together the parts of them that had frayed in moments of tension. This newfound emotional safety created a lovely bond that felt renewed and tested in ways that had deepened both of their hearts. As they leaned in closer, their shoulders brushing, it became apparent that they were rediscovering the joy of simply being together. It was as if all the challenges they had faced crafted a deeper kinship, solidifying their understanding of one another. This couch, with the blanket wrapped around them, was not just a spot for entertainment, it had become a haven where their hearts felt connected, cherished, and free. They were no longer just navigating storms but learning to dance in the rain, and it brought a sense of hope into their story. Weeks turned into months as Dylan and Daisy continued to build on their relationship, having grown through their challenges. The lessons they learned together were now woven into the fabric of their days, reflected not only in how they communicated but also in how they supported and loved each other. They both felt a renewed sense of confidence and excitement about the journey ahead. One bright Saturday morning, as the sun streamed through their kitchen window, Daisy decided to surprise Dylan with a special breakfast. She knew how much he loved pancakes, so she spent the early hours mixing batter, laughing softly to herself at the thought of his sleepy face lighting up when he tasted them. When Dylan entered the kitchen, yawning and stretching, he stopped immediately when he caught the delicious smell in the air. Wow, it smells amazing. You are the best, he exclaimed, rubbing his eyes to chase away sleep. As they sat down to eat, Dylan leaned across the table, looking earnestly into Daisy's eyes. You've made my mornings so much brighter lately. I really appreciate how you've made this effort. It means a lot to me. Daisy smiled, her cheeks warming at his words. I love cooking for you, especially knowing we can share these moments together. Thank you for being patient with me. With breakfast finished, they cleaned the table together, both feeling a sense of teamwork that had become characteristic of their relationship. As they washed dishes side by side, Dylan glanced at Daisy and a thought bubbled to the surface. A new shared goal they had been talking about for weeks. What if we take that trip to the beach next month? He suggested tentatively. Daisy paused, letting the suggestion sink in. I'd love that. A chance to explore and enjoy time together sounds perfect. She felt an excited flutter in her stomach, and all the pressure they used to feel around decisions seemed to vanish. The openness they had built allowed them to share dreams without hesitation. Dylan's heart soared. Let's make it special. We could try a few things we've never done, like paddleboarding or even a cooking class by the beach. Great idea, Daisy gushed. And we should each plan a part of the trip, so it feels like is ours together. Looking into each other's eyes, they realized just how far they had come, not only as a couple but as individuals who understood their own desires and needs. The earlier days of tension and conflict seemed like a distant memory, replaced by mutual respect and excitement for the future. Later that evening, as they settled down for the night, Dylan made a spontaneous move that warmed Daisy's heart. He took a small framed photo from the shelf, a picture from one of their first outings together, filled with laughter and joy. "This is us," he said, placing it gently by her bedside. "I want to always remember how we got through our struggles and emerged stronger." Moved, Daisy took the photo and kissed Dylan's cheek. "No matter what challenges arise, I think we can handle anything together." As they cuddled under the covers, knowing they had learned and grown, Dylan realized he could share his dreams while supporting Daisy's aspirations. No longer was he concerned about losing his independence within the relationship. He could embrace both a love that flourished and his own personal journey. The night turned peaceful as they held one another close. Gazing out the window at the twinkling stars, they felt a sense of hope radiate within them. Their individual growth had blossomed, resulting in a relationship strengthened by trust, honesty, and love. Each lesson learned became a stepping stone guiding them toward a shared future filled with new adventures, reinforcement of their bond, and absolute trust in each other. They were ready to embrace whatever came next, together, two hearts intertwined, each stronger because of the other.